In modern societies, some traditions continue quietly, passed down through generations. But as societies evolve, certain practices begin to raise new questions. In modern Britain, a tradition as old as human history itself is meeting the full force of 21st century understanding. It's a practice that operates within the most intimate of spaces, the family, and yet its implications ripple outward, touching upon questions of culture, health, and the very nature of a multicultural society. We're talking about the marriage between cousins. And today, we are going to explore this quiet tradition to understand not just what it is, but why it endures, and the complex, often difficult conversation it has ignited. So where do we begin? Well, at the heart of this entire subject lies a single powerful question. Is this practice a timeless tradition, a vital thread that weaves families and communities together? Or is it a modern health risk, a genetic gamble that we can no longer afford to ignore? This isn't a simple choice between two opposing views. It's a genuine dilemma, a profound tension between deeply held cultural values and the stark, impartial language of science. And our journey today is to unpack that tension, to look at it from all sides, without judgment, but with a deep commitment to understanding. Before we can even begin to understand the conversation happening in the UK today, we need to take a step back, a big step back. Because this is not a new phenomenon. It isn't specific to one culture, or one country, or even one century. To truly grasp its significance, we have to look at this practice for what it is, an ancient global human behavior, with roots that stretch across every inhabited continent and back to the dawn of civilization itself. Just think about it for a moment. For much of human history, marrying a relative wasn't the exception, it was often the rule. It was a strategy. In the gilded halls of European royalty, the Habsburgs and the Bourbons arranged marriages between cousins to consolidate kingdoms, to forge political alliances, and to keep power locked within a single dominant bloodline. But it wasn't just royalty. In intellectual circles, it was also surprisingly common. Charles Darwin, the very man who revolutionized our understanding of genetics and evolution, married his own first cousin, Emma Wedgwood. For them, and for many others in their era, it was a perfectly normal, even desirable choice. This practice, which had all but vanished from the British mainstream, has now re-emerged, finding a new context and sparking an entirely new conversation for reasons those historical figures could never have imagined. We can really trace the story of this practice within Britain itself across three very distinct periods. In the pre-modern era, there was a fascinating duality. Civil law, which was concerned primarily with property and inheritance, largely permitted it, but Christian canon law, which saw the family in spiritual as well as biological terms, strongly discouraged it. Then came the modern era. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about steam engines and factories, it was a social revolution. People began to move. They left their ancestral villages for booming cities, they met strangers, and the pool of potential partners expanded exponentially. Social and geographic mobility made marrying a relative less necessary, and eventually less common, until it virtually disappeared from mainstream life. And then, in the late 20th century, the story takes another turn. With immigration from parts of the world where the tradition hadn't faded, where it remained a central pillar of social life, the practice re-emerged in Britain, bringing with it a rich cultural heritage, but also a new set of questions for a changed world. And that brings us right up to the present day. So the question is why? In a modern, highly individualistic society like the United Kingdom, why does this tradition not only continue, but in some communities thrive? The answers are not simple. They are complex, layered, and deeply interwoven with the very fabric of family, culture, and social identity. If you look at it from a cultural perspective, this is about so much more than a marriage between two individuals. It is seen, first and foremost, as a way to strengthen the family. In a world that can feel fragmented and uncertain, it reinforces the family unit, creating a powerful interwoven structure. It's also about preservation, protecting a specific cultural heritage and identity from being diluted in a wider society. There are practical reasons too, keeping assets, whether it's a family business or property, from being dispersed outside the family line. And perhaps most importantly, it provides a deep sense of social stability. It creates vast, reliable support networks and ensures that a person is marrying a partner with a known background, someone who you can be certain shares the same fundamental values and understands the same cultural language. It removes the uncertainty of marrying an outsider.
This one quote really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. It is not just a marriage of two people, but an alliance of two families. This simple sentence reframes the entire concept. In this view, marriage is not primarily a romantic contract between two individuals. It is a strategic social contract between two families designed to strengthen the entire community. It's the bedrock, the foundation upon which the rest of the social structure is built. Each marriage is a reinforcing beam, solidifying the whole. It's a powerful, compelling vision of social cohesion, a form of social glue that has held communities together for centuries.
But there is another dimension to this story, one that is equally powerful but speaks a very different language. We've talked about the bonds of family, of tradition, of community. Now we must turn to the bonds of DNA. And here, in the silent, intricate world of the human genome, the science tells a very different story, one that introduces a vocabulary not of culture, but of probability, inheritance, and risk.
To really understand the health dimension of this conversation, we need to get to grips with a fundamental concept: recessive genes. The truth is, every single one of us carries them. Think of them as tiny, harmless typos in our vast genetic instruction book. As long as we only have one copy of a specific typo, it has no effect. The healthy gene from the other parent overrides it. But a problem can arise if a child, by chance, inherits the exact same genetic typo from their mother and from their father. When that happens, there is no healthy gene to override it, and that is when a recessive genetic disorder can emerge.
So, here is the crucial link. The human gene pool is vast and diverse. For two unrelated people, the chances of them both carrying the exact same rare, faulty gene are incredibly small. But if two people are related, if they share recent ancestors, like a pair of grandparents, then they have drawn their genetic material from a much smaller shared pool. This means they are significantly more likely to have inherited and to carry the very same rare recessive genes. And that, in turn, dramatically increases the odds that their child could inherit two copies of that gene, leading to the birth of a child with a serious, often life-limiting genetic condition. And when you step back and look at the public health data in the UK, the statistical impact of this becomes starkly clear. The communities where cousin marriage is more common make up a relatively small fraction of the total UK population. And yet, studies have consistently shown that they account for a vastly disproportionate share of children born with these rare recessive genetic disorders. This isn't a judgment. It is a simple statistical reality that public health officials have to contend with. This is where we can see the numbers. Any couple from any background has a small baseline risk of having a child with a serious genetic disorder. That risk is never zero. But for first cousins, that risk is substantially elevated. The exact numbers can vary depending on the specific condition and the population group, but the pattern is consistent. The relative risk increases significantly. It's a statistical shift that moves the outcome from a remote, abstract possibility into a tangible, statistically significant probability that has to be considered. So what happens when you have, on the one hand, a tradition that is cherished, that provides social stability, and is seen as the foundation of community? And on the other hand, you have hard scientific data that points to a clear, elevated health risk. Well, what happens is you get a very, very difficult public conversation, one that pits deeply personal choices against public health responsibilities, and cultural freedom against the welfare of the next generation. The whole debate really boils down to two competing and equally compelling principles. On one side, you have the argument for cultural autonomy. This view champions the right to personal choice. It argues that in a free society, people should be able to make their own decisions about marriage and family, and that deeply held traditions deserve respect and protection. On the other side, you have the argument for public health intervention. This perspective focuses on the state's fundamental responsibility to protect the welfare of children who cannot consent to the genetic risks involved. It also points to the significant long-term consequences for the National Health Service and the broader public health system. There is no easy answer here. Both sides are arguing from a place of genuine conviction. So, given this delicate situation, how have British institutions actually responded? Well, it's been a very cautious balancing act. You see a clear political reluctance to legislate, to create an outright ban, largely due to fears of being seen as discriminatory or of alienating entire communities. So instead of coercion, the focus has been on information and choice. There have been public health campaigns designed to raise awareness of the genetic risks, but these have to be crafted very carefully to be informative without being stigmatizing. Specialist genetic screening and counseling services have been established, allowing couples who are related to get tested, understand their specific risks, and make a fully informed decision. And the official guidance from the NHS tries to walk this tightrope, providing clear information about the science while also acknowledging the need for cultural sensitivity. It's a strategy of empowerment through education rather than regulation. This brings us, inevitably, to the future. Because as with so many traditions that are passed down through time, the most important question is not what the older generation believes, but how the practice will be viewed, adopted, or perhaps adapted by the next generation. The future of this tradition rests in their hands.
For many young people growing up in these communities in Britain today, they are navigating a dual identity. They live in two worlds. At home, they are immersed in a world of deep family ties, of respect for tradition, and of community obligation. But outside the home, at school, at university, online, and with their friends, they are immersed in mainstream British culture, which has very different ideas about individualism, romantic love, and personal choice. This creates a profound and complex dilemma. They are caught between a genuine respect for their heritage and the powerful influence of evolving social norms. They are the ones who must ultimately navigate this difficult choice, and their decisions will shape the future.
And so, in the end, we're left with a question that is much bigger than this single issue. It's a fundamental question for any modern multicultural society. In a world of constantly evolving values, who decides which traditions endure and which ones fade into the past? Societies change, but traditions often remain. And the question is not just what continues, but what evolves. Finding the answer requires a delicate balance between respecting cultural heritage and safeguarding public well-being. And it is perhaps one of the most profound and ongoing challenges that we all face together.
If you found this insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Last Narrative.